Vow, a solemn promise to do a specified thing. Now, in our lives, we make vows to ourselves, to our loved ones, our community, our various organizations that we're involved in, and even God. So this is vow number 5, adversity. What if I told you that this vow can almost guarantee that you can overcome just about any challenge in your path and your journey to success? Truth. The sun does not always shine. The grapes are not always ripe on the vine. Peace does not always reign. And now regrettably, I recognize another truth. Although I've already tasted the wine of success, especially with the principles that we've learned thus far, I know that I cannot expect to walk through the remainder of my life on highs of mountain peaks. No matter how much I try, how much I persist and excel in my chosen work, there will still be days, weeks, and even months where everything I attempt results in frustration and failure. All of us, even the mighty and heroic, spend too many of our days living in fear of failure. Now, when we're trying to process that, we ask ourselves, do we possess all the money in the world? Do we possess gold and precious gems? Remember, the shadow of fear says they are not enough because others have more. Then we ask, the shadow of fear says, are we protected and safe? We should ask ourselves, safe from what? Disease, unemployment, robbery? Do we have many friends and a family who loves us? The shadow of fear will say, is friendship ever to be trusted? Will the love of our family and friends endure? Will they stay? The fear of adversity leading to failures casts a terrible shadow on all the days of our lives. Fear is a mother. Fear can make you question everything that you understood to be true. Fear can make you make poor decisions. Fear can make you make not the best decisions, but they may not be the worst decisions either. But oftentimes there is no fear. A common quote that I like to say, I'm a big science fiction fan for those you don't know it. I am a fan of a science fiction book series as well as some movies. Been multiple movies and series versions called Dune, D-U-N-E. And one of the religious groups in there, they have a quote that they say in times of adversity. And the quote is as follows. It says, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that causes total obliteration. I must face my fear and I must allow it to pass over and through me. And there's a continuing part on it as well, but I'm not. That's the part that I quoted is the part that's relevant to this discussion. And the funny thing about fear, it comes in so many different variations, so many different shapes and colors and flavors, if you will. But the one thing about fear, its shape and colors are varied. It is both imaginary and real, leaving you confused and clear, and can be yet temporary yet permanent. Adversity is a terror. It terrorizes a worker who is struggling to keep his job. Fear can prey on the father who's hoping that he can feed his family. Fear can terrorize a merchant hoping he will be able to sell his goods or services. Fear can even terrorize soldiers who are leading others into battle. Fear tortures everyone alike, no matter who you are. Now, many folks are brave and have courage, and they will act in spite of fear, but it still inflicts us all. Now, for a long time, I had no knowledge of how to deal with adversity, and the wounds that I received from my early defeats were serious enough to cloud many of my hopes and destroy a lot of my ambition. Early on, I was always positive, had hopes, but I was always fearful and nervous about how to get those done, because I'd get that done and get those goals done because I didn't have a lot of those guides and roadmaps that I now possess in order to achieve those things. But no more. And for you want to make sure that you can learn that. And you can go out and get the knowledge and the skills that you need, because once you have that with self-confidence, you can overcome much of fear, because fear is largely rooted in the unknown. The less we know about something, the more we tend to be fearful of it. And so when I adopted that thinking, I sort of looked at it like this. This is my new life, and now I know the secret of how to profit from my defeats. In other words, learn from my mistakes, my failures. And so that whenever I do suffer a failure or a defeat, I can still profit from it. I can still learn the lessons to be had by that failure, by that defeat. Now the vow is as follows. Always will I seek the seed of triumph in every adversity. So we're always going to, no matter what the challenge is, we're going to be looking for the way to overcome it, not say, let's avoid the adversity, let's avoid the challenge. Let's say, no, rather than try to go around, let's try to figure out how to go through. Okay. The thing is, think about adversity. There is no better school than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss, every set of difficulties contains its own seed, its own lesson. These lessons help us to improve our performance for the next time we meet that adversity, that same adversity, or a similar one. Now, I say that never should you contribute to your downfall by refusing to face the truth and learn from your past mistakes. Experience is the most valuable extract of the suffering, as they say. In other words, whenever you go through all that difficult time, take that away from it. It's always lessons to be learned. And yet, one of the terrible conditions of this life is that the wisdom cannot be transferred to another. So nobody else can experience what you experience and take away from it. You can try to convey your experience so that they can see your viewpoint, your perspective through a story, and they can relate, and they may be able to gather something from that, from your perspective, but they can never get the same level of experience that you did unless you are the most gifted of gifted storytellers and writers, to where you can convey almost your entire thought process and emotional state through a particular time that a reader or a listener can really feel and experience it. Here's the thing. When it comes to the school of hard knocks, which is kind of what we call it, one thing is guaranteed. All of us must attend our own school of adversity, and for each, the lessons will be different. My lesson, me and you might go through a similar situation, but I might come away with it with a totally different set of lessons than you did with your experience. But remember, there is no other way. The only way you can, now there's no other way you can experience that but to grow through it, you got to go through it. Now, adversity is the first path to truth. However, I'm prepared to learn whatever I need to learn to know in order to improve the conditions of my life. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but basically what I'm saying is the thought process is, as we go through adversity, go through these difficult times, and we learn to overcome, because we got to become a better person to overcome the elements of this particular adversity. It usually takes us learning some new skill or some new thing to get through that adversity. And so not only will I improve my mindset, not only will I improve my toolbox of skills, I will also improve the conditions of my life. Because if you want better, you got to be better, because everything that you did to get you where you are now are not going to get you somewhere else. You got to become more to get more and be more. So always will we seek the seed of triumph in every adversity. You have to be better prepared now to deal with any adversity. Now, for me, I understand for the first time, or at least when I first learned this, how swiftly all of my deeds and events, both good and bad, both large and small, will pass on and are no more the works of man, as well as they are the works of nature. So in other words, no matter what's going on, whether it's good or bad, it's going to change tomorrow. It's not going to be forever. So if you're going through something bad in your life right now, take note. It's not going to last forever. At some point, it's going to get better. And if everything is going great for you right now, at some point, you're going to meet a new challenge, and things are not going to stay great. So if one thing we know is there's a constant change that goes on. And to that effect, remember this: all things in life are not only in a constant change, but they are also the cause of infinite change in each other. So I'm going to repeat that. All things in life are not only in a constant state of change, but they are the cause of infinite change in everything else. It's all connected. Picture this. So picture this. I want you to close your eyes and listen to the words I'm going to say. Each day I stand upon a narrow ledge behind me. A bottomless abyss of the past is in front of me. A future that will swallow everything that befalls me today. That's what we have. So when you think about the present time, if you look back, there's a narrow ledge. So but you can't go back on that narrow ledge. And in front of you is a bottomless abyss of the past, because you can't go back. So you can't go back in the past. So that's essentially a bottomless abyss that you can't get to unless you're dead. But then the future can swallow everything that happens to me today. In other words, today's future becomes the present of today becomes the past of tomorrow, and then the future of tomorrow becomes the present. So no matter what fate has in store for us, know that we can either relish it, we can enjoy it, or we're going to suffer for it only a brief time if it's bad. So again, if it's a great time, if things are going good, enjoy it now, could change tomorrow. If things are going bad, take heart, it could be better tomorrow. So and even the Bible talks about that. And so that's a universal truth. So the problem is, so very few people understand this obvious truth. I mean, it's obvious. Things that are happening today could change tomorrow. They do. But yet, so many people forget that, and they wallow in today's misery and act as though it's going to be miserable forever. So they don't understand that, yet others who do understand it allow their hopes and goals, to vanish. Well, in other words, put it this way: so very few understand the obvious truth that things will change, while the rest allow their hopes and goals to vanish as soon as tragedy strikes. Soon they go, "Oh man, life is terrible. It's so bad." These unfortunate people carry with them their own proverbial bed of thorns. They're laying on a difficult bed because they're miserable, not realizing that things will get better, whether it's tomorrow or the next day. But the irony of it is, the people who choose to live in misery always look to other people for sympathy and attention. They say, "Woe is me, feel bad for me. Look at me, I'm a victim. Terrible me. Please feel bad for me. Don't you think it is terrible? Don't you think it's horrible?" And those people give away their power. Because remember, adversity will never destroy the person who has courage and faith. All of us are tested in the furnace of disaster. And not all of us emerge. Many people lose their way. Many people take their own lives and things like that because they find they don't see light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. Not all emerge. You will emerge. I know I will emerge. Okay? Because think about it. Things like gold. Gold, if you put gold in that a real furnace, and you put it in there, it's going to melt, but it'll never dissolve. It'll never melt away. That's one of the values of gold. It doesn't corrode. It won't melt away. It'll just sit there and stay liquid until it cools back down again if you take it out of the fire. And so that gold is considered precious for many of its chemical and physical attributes. We are no different, and we are just as precious as any gold. Remember, all things shall pass, but always will we seek the seed of triumph in every adversity. Now, hopefully you can see that adversity has many benefits, but little recognized by most people. Think about this. Adversity is the only scale, if you will, on which we can weigh those who profess to be friends and learn the truth. Adversity shows the real character of people. During difficult times, people who are truly in your corner will shine and they will rise to the occasion. Those who are not won't. It is also important to know that adversity is a state in which we can most easily become acquainted with our inner selves. We can learn a lot about ourselves as we go through difficult times. We learn a lot about ourselves. We start to really think about things in a challenging way. Adversity has a wondrous ability of drawing out our talents in desperation. So when we're backed against the wall, we need some money, we got to eat or something like that, we got certain adversities. A lot of those talents come bubbling up when we say, "Oh, I got to survive." And so you have that. But yet, when things are in good times, during prosperous circumstances, we probably would have not tapped into those talents and those extra skills because they weren't needed. You ever heard the expression about mother necessity? See, people think more about things when they are in need of them than just people. A lot of people don't just come up with random ideas out of the blue. There's usually a reason, a need for it that inspired that to be invented or be discovered. Just like a precious gem, you got to use a lot of friction to polish those stones, But remember, that same, just like a diamond, a piece of coal goes through pressure and heat and it becomes a diamond. that became stronger. We are no different. We are much like that. When we go through difficulties with pressure, we can rise to the occasion. We become stronger, just like that diamond. Now, I know that there are no times in life when opportunities, which are the chance to be and do, gather so richly about our soul as when we have to suffer some cruel adversity. I mean, we could talk history and talk about many things like the enslavement of people and their challenges they went through, displaced peoples who lost their land in favor of another group, things of that way, that thing. Those people suffered and rose through and became better in many ways through that adverse set of conditions. But if you think about it, everything depends on whether you hold your head up high or you lower it when you seek help, even if the help is needed because it came from that adversity. So, I mean, because when you raise your head high, if you lower it, it's shame, and one should not be held in shame when dealing with a difficult situation, adversity that puts them maybe in a lower station than they were previously. Now, if you think about it, if we resort to mere hacks or tricks, the opportunity is forever lost to become better from it. And then typically when we take shortcuts, we come out no richer, no better. And usually you end up coming out harder, poorer, and smaller for your pain. But if you turn to God, and I know I will from now on, any time of adversity can be easily transformed into a triumphant turning point in our lives. So when you seek help, whether it's help from a friend, a family member, a neighbor, God, seeking help in and of itself is often a path to triumph over adversity. If you got to get help, there's nothing wrong with getting help. Because remember, always will we seek the seed of triumph in every adversity. Now, I know for me, whenever I am struck down in the future by any terrible defeat, I will always inquire of myself after the initial pain has passed, because we know how that goes. When you first get that gut punch in the face, you got to process that pain and get through that pain. But then I will ask myself, how can I turn that adversity into a good thing? What can I learn from it? How can I turn it? How can I reverse it? As Pops said, how can I reverse it? And then think about it for a minute. Even in the darkest, we've heard stories about people who, when faced in their darkest hour and their most difficult challenge, that what a great opportunity that the moment of adversity might present. You might be able to take that bitter root, if you will, that sour taste, of adversity, that challenge, that bad incident that happened, and transform it. I mean, you could take that, if it's a bitter root, you plant it. The root might be bitter to the taste, but if you plant that root, the plant that grows from that root might bear fruit. Might bear some type of berry that's delicious. It could be the green part might be something edible and delicious. So just because the root is bitter doesn't mean the entire plant will be bitter. In other words, like adversity, we can take something good and positive away from that challenge and that bad part. And heck, you might be able to create a dish fit for a king. So I know this one's a little longer, but there's a lot here for that one, because we all face adversity, and a big part of success is getting through that adversity, getting over it, and not quitting or turning around every time things get tough. Remember the old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going? I want you to be tough. So with this vow right here, and looking for triumph over that adversity rather than say, looking for a way around it or way over it. Let's go through it. And I think you'll find this will greatly enhance your success levels with this. So hopefully you found this one valuable as well. Next video, number 6, we'll be talking about maximum performance. So hope stick around and check that one out. Take care and God bless.